There are truths that hurt, not because they're cruel, but because they are clean, too clean for the comfort of modern ears. These truths are not shouted, they are whispered, not because they are weak, but because they don't need to beg to be heard. They stand like stone, unmoved, waiting for the few who are brave enough to face them. You were taught to avoid pain, to run from difficulty, to expect fairness, to believe that life should be kind just because you are trying. But life is not kind. It is indifferent. And that is the first truth. The first cut, truth. 1. Life does not care how you feel. It does not stop for your sadness. It does not pause for your confusion. It does not bend itself around your expectations. The world spins on. Whether your heart is broken or whole, whether you rise with discipline or fall into weakness, whether you honor your duties or flee from them, and this hurts, because we were told that effort should be rewarded, that being good means things will go well, that if we suffer, the world should apologize. But the Stoic does not expect fairness. He expects reality, and reality is a storm that spares no one. It respects only preparation, only fortitude, only those who stop asking, why me, and start answering, what now? Because the world doesn't owe you comfort, it owes you nothing. And that is liberation. When you drop your entitlement, you gain power. You stop waiting for life to adjust to you, and you begin adjusting to life. This is how wisdom begins. Not with inspiration, but with confrontation. When you accept that the universe has no favorites, you stop resenting the wind and start learning to sail. The Stoics understood this. They trained for it. They rehearsed misfortune so that when it came, they were ready. They didn't ask fate to be gentle. They asked themselves to be strong. You can't change the world, but you can change the way you move through it. Not with slogans, not with feelings, but with discipline. You must stop asking life to be easier and start becoming harder to break. And that begins here, in the mirror, with no excuses, no narrative, just facts. Are you who you claim to be when the weather turns, when the money runs out, when the love leaves, when the pain doesn't stop? If not, you have work to do. And that work isn't glamorous. It's repetitive, unseen, unrewarded. But it is the only kind of work that leaves you with something death cannot take. Because once you accept that your feelings do not dictate reality, you can start using them instead of serving them. You are not your mood. You are not your fears. You are not your story. You are your response. That is the core of Stoic power, to respond with reason, with virtue, with inner command. Even when your whole body screams to collapse, even when your mind tells you it's pointless, even when the world walks away, especially then, that's when character is revealed. That's when you know who you are without the mask, and who you are without comfort is who you really are. So step into it, not with bitterness, but with readiness. Do not curse the cold. Become fire. Do not wait for rescue. Become your own reinforcement. Do not shrink from the weight. Train under it, because life is not meant to pamper you. It is meant to press you, to shape you, to test whether you are real or simply rehearsed. You want to be wise? Then accept this first truth. Not once, but every day. Say it aloud if you must. Life does not care how I feel. And then act anyway. Act from values, not from moods. Move with purpose, not emotion. Choose clarity over comfort. And when the world throws another storm, You won't flinch, you'll nod. Not because you're numb, but because you were built for this. You were told someone would save you, that if you waited long enough, believed hard enough, cried loud enough, help would arrive. That's the story. That if things fall apart, you'll be rescued. That somewhere out there, there's a mentor, a soulmate, a breakthrough, a perfect moment that will lift you out of your pain and give your life meaning. But that was a story. The truth is far colder and far stronger. Truth number 2. No one is coming. No one is coming to fix your mind. No one is coming to clean your soul. No one is coming to lift you out of the hole you've sat in for years. This life, it is your task. It is your duty. It is your burden. And if you drop it, it stays dropped. If you wait, it decays. If you retreat, no one will chase you back into the fight. That is the weight of freedom. You are alone. And that is not tragedy. That is the beginning of power. Because once you accept that the cavalry is not coming, you stop waiting and start becoming. You rise. You move. You do the thing you've avoided for years. Not because you feel ready, but because you're done waiting to feel anything at all. The Stoics taught this in silence. They didn't write books to be worshipped. They wrote as reminders to themselves. This is your life. No one will live it for you. No one will carry your virtue. No one will earn your discipline. No one will face your death. That is your mountain, and yours alone. You were not promised ease. You were not promised answers. You were given the gift of breath and the power of choice, that is all. And that is everything. So stop looking up as if someone's watching. They aren't. Stop shouting into the void, hoping the void will send you a map. It won't. The map is inside you. It always was. Covered in fear, buried under softness, hidden by years of distraction. But it is there. And every day you refuse to move, the map fades. Not because it is gone, but because you are further from it. You think discipline is hard, but regret is heavier. You think pain is the enemy, but avoidance is the slowest poison. You think comfort is your friend, but it is the jailer who speaks softly while locking every door. There is no secret, only work. There is no miracle, only choice. And every choice you make is either saving your life or wasting it. Every decision is a declaration of who you are. So, who are you? The one who waits, or the one who walks? The one who begs for help, or the one who helps himself? The Stoic does not wait, he acts. Not rashly, not emotionally, but with calm force, like the sea, unmoved by storms, patient, unstoppable. He builds his character in the quiet hours, in the shadows, in the moments no one applauds. He doesn't rise because he is motivated. He rises because he must, because this is his life, and no one else will carry it forward. You want to be free? Then take responsibility, not just for your job, not just for your goals, but for your mind, for your habits, for the way you show up even when no one is watching, especially then, because that is the test. And you pass it not by shouting, but by standing, not by hoping, but by building, not by demanding, but by enduring. So the next time the pain rises, do not wait for comfort. Do not wait for someone to come save you. Remember the truth. Tattoo it in your mind. No one is coming, and that's okay. Because now you know. You don't need anyone. You are enough. Not because you are already perfect, but because you are willing to carry what no one else can. Your burden, your discipline, your fire. And with that, you will build a life that no one can take from you, not death, not failure, not time, because it was yours, and you lived it. You've blamed the world long enough, blamed your parents, blamed your past, blamed the system, blamed the timing, blamed everything outside of you, because it's easier than facing the one truth that burns cleanest. Truth number 3, you are the problem, not fate, not your enemies, not your circumstances, you. It's not that life has been unfair, it's that you've been undisciplined, unfocused, unwilling to see yourself clearly because the mirror does not flatter. You chose comfort over courage, distraction over discipline. You told yourself stories instead of facing facts, and for every one of those choices, you paid. You're still paying. You feel behind? It's not because others had more. It's because you gave less. You feel misunderstood? It's not because people failed you. It's because you failed to become someone worth understanding. You feel lost? It's not because there's no map. It's because you ignored it every time it pointed where you didn't want to go. And the world owes you no apology. Because the world did not stop you from waking early, from reading harder, from holding your tongue, from training when tired, from keeping your word, from being silent when ego wanted to roar. That was you. You failed you. And this is where most people stop listening, because this truth demands something brutal, responsibility without escape. But the Stoic does not run from this. He welcomes it. Because once you accept that you are the root of your own suffering, you also realize you are the root of your own salvation. No one can fix you. But no one needs to fear, because you can fix yourself. If you are the cause, you can be the cure, and that is power. Not the shallow power of control over others, but the deep, eternal power of control over self. That power doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg to be admired, it simply acts, silently, consistently, ruthlessly. It turns off the noise. It kills the excuses. It looks in the mirror each morning and says, I know where the problem is. Let's begin there. And it does not stop. Not when it's tired. Not when it's lonely. Not when it's doubted. Because it does not serve emotion. It serves principle. The Stoic doesn't need perfect conditions. He doesn't wait to feel like it. He does what must be done because it must be done. That's the difference between the man who changes his life and the man who repeats his pain. One accepts the hard truth. The other hides behind softer lies. So make your choice. Will you be ruled by what happened to you, or will you rule what happens next? Will you keep bleeding for the past wing, or will you begin building a future that no one can take from you? It begins not with motivation, not with clarity, not with healing. It begins with responsibility. The kind of raw, unforgiving honesty that strips away the layers of identity you've used to hide from yourself. You are not a victim. You are not broken. You are simply untrained, undisciplined, unsharpened. And that can be changed. But only if you stop running. Only if you sit in the silence and ask the question most people fear, where have I made this worse? And then answer it not with shame, not with self-pity, but with fire. With the kind of fire that says, if I'm the one who allowed this, then I'm the one who will end it. You want to be free? Then stop blaming, start building. You want to be wise? Then stop avoiding, start acting. You want to be whole? Then stop waiting, start choosing. Because life is not waiting for you. It is moving. It is bleeding. It is burning. And you are either stepping into it with both feet, or watching it pass while holding a list of excuses no one will read. Let today be the day you put them down. All of them. And finally say, it's me. I'm the one who must change, and I will. You know it, but you don't feel it. You speak of it in whispers, as if keeping the volume low will keep the shadow away. You say, someday, as if someday is not already stalking you with every passing minute. But here is the final, hardest truth. You are going to die. Not metaphorically, not poetically, not eventually, actually, fully, irrevocably. One day, soon, your lungs will stop, your hands will fall still, your name will fade, your body will return to dust, and the world will keep moving as if you were never here. Idiot will not pause. It will not mourn you for long. And it should not, because the world owes you nothing. It gave you time, and now it will take it back. And in that transaction, only one question remains. What did you do with the breath you were given? The Stoics lived with death not as a fear, but as a compass. They did not hide from it. They stared it in the face. Every day, they whispered to themselves, memento mori. Remember, you must die, not to grieve, but to live. Because when you remember that time is finite, you stop wasting it. When you remember that every moment is a gift, you stop throwing it away on distractions, on drama, on the approval of people who won't even come to your funeral. You stop saying, I'll start tomorrow. Because you realize, tomorrow is a myth, a lie told by cowards. A comfortable prison built on the assumption that you're owed more days. But you are not owed anything, not even the rest of today. And if that terrifies you, good. Let it. Let it burn through your excuses. Let it strip away your delay. Let it crush your fantasy that you can drift through life and still arrive at meaning. Because death is the ultimate truth, the great leveler, the final teacher. And it has no patience for your goals, your comfort, your laziness. It is coming. For all of us. And the only thing you get to decide is whether you meet it as a builder or a beggar. The builder leaves something behind. Not in statues, not in followers, but in impact, in presence, in a life lived deliberately. The beggar leaves with nothing. Because he spent every day waiting for the right time to start becoming himself. But time does not wait. You are dying right now, slowly and inevitably. The question is not if, it is how. How will you die? As a whisper, as a regret, as an echo of what could have been? Or will you die as a fire? A man who stood firm, who chose truth, who spoke little but lived fully. You decide, not in words, in actions, in habits, in how you spend the currency of your minutes. Each one is a coin you will never get back. Are you spending them on virtue, or on vanity, on clarity, or comfort, on presence, or pretending? Because the debt is coming, and when it arrives, you cannot bargain, you cannot delay, you cannot explain. You can only nod, bow your head, and answer. One final question. Did you live well? If the answer is yes, you will die with peace. If the answer is no, you will die with noise. But either way, you will die. And this truth is not meant to haunt you. It is meant to awaken you, to shake you out of numbness, to jolt you into urgency, to remind you that every morning you rise is a gift, and every night you sleep is a step closer to silence. Use this knowledge. Let it be your alarm clock. Let it be your guide. You do not have time to be petty, to be lazy, to be bitter, to be distracted. You have only time to become. So, become now, while your hands still move, while your heart still beats, while your eyes still burn with the fire of possibility. And when the end comes, as it must, you will not fear it. You will welcome it, not as a thief, but as a judge. And you will meet it with clean hands, clear eyes, and no words left unsaid. That is the Stoic death. That is the free man's ending. That is how you become untouchable, even by death itself. You are living on borrowed time. Every second is a loan, and no one tells you the balance. No warning when the final payment comes due. Only silence. Only the end. And yet, you act like you are rich in time. You waste it. Trade it for petty emotions. Spend it proving things that do not matter. You act as if tomorrow is guaranteed, but it is not. You may not even finish this sentence, and still, you delay. Delay the truth. Delay the work. Delay becoming the person you promised yourself you'd become. You are waiting for a sign, a better mood, a clearer path, a version of you that doesn't feel tired, afraid, or uncertain. But that version of you does not exist, only this one. This tired, afraid, uncertain man. He is the only one who can save your life. And the only way forward is through action. Not belief. Not vision. Not inspiration. Action. Because death will not wait for you to figure it out. It will not wait for your healing, your plan, your confidence. It will arrive like a knock you didn't hear on a day you didn't mark, in a moment you thought you could waste. And when it comes, it will ask only one thing. Did you live? Not were you happy? Not were you liked? But did you live the life you were supposed to? Did you show up? Did you carry your burden? Did you use your mind? Did you train your will? Did you practice your values when no one was clapping? Because that's what it means to live, to suffer with purpose, to struggle with dignity, to fall, rise, and fall again. Not in shame, but in defiance of surrender. You were not built for comfort. You were not born for ease. You are here to be forged, tested, ground down and sharpened, until what remains is indestructible. So stop acting like this life is a rehearsal. Stop treating your days like spare change. Stop walking as if the road is infinite. It is not, and that is what gives it meaning. Because if you were immortal, there would be no urgency. No need to speak truth today. No need to act with courage now. No need to love deeply or forgive completely. But you are not immortal. You are breaking, decaying, fading, one breath at a time. That's not something to fear. It's something to use. Let it sharpen you. Let it harden your resolve. Let it burn away the lies you've told yourself to feel safe. Because you are not safe. No one is. And that is freedom. Freedom from the illusion of time. Freedom from the prison of perfection. Freedom to act now. While there is still blood in your chest and fight in your bones. The Stoics didn't fear death. They feared wasting life. They feared dying before becoming who they were meant to be, and you should too. Not because death is bad, but because wasting your chance to live rightly, that is unforgivable. You will die, but you do not have to die as the same man you are today. You can rise, you can change. You can sharpen the blade and carry the fire and hold the line, but only if you stop waiting. Only if you stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to be worthy of the time you've been given. So take one breath, one choice, one small act of defiance against your own weakness, and let that be the start of a life that is yours, not borrowed, not wasted, not denied, but lived deliberately, courageously, completely. A man does not rise by dreaming. He rises by acting, not once, not sometimes, but daily, deliberately, precisely, with the quiet violence of someone who understands what is at stake. Because when you realize your time is running out, everything changes. Distraction becomes sin. Laziness becomes theft. Regret becomes poison, and every minute becomes sacred. Not because it's special, but because it's limited, and what is limited must be used with discipline. But most don't live that way. They throw away hours like coins in a fountain, wishing for a life they're not willing to build. They call it relaxing, resting, deserving a break. But they haven't earned that break. They haven't bled for it. They haven't stood through the storm long enough to call it peace. The Stoic doesn't fear rest, but he earns it. He doesn't reject joy, but he doesn't chase it. He understands this. There is no freedom without self-command, and every moment of indulgence without purpose is a debt. It's a tax on your future, a cost you will feel when your strength is needed most. So what do? You act, not as a machine, but as a builder. You don't just move, you move with aim, with direction, with reason. Because to waste a day is to insult the dead, the ones who never made it this far, the ones who would trade your worst hour for one more breath, and you are here, alive, aware, capable. So what will you do? Scroll, complain, explain away your potential like it's someone else's fault you're not ready? Or will you get up? Will you write, train, serve, speak truth, live with a spine instead of a screen? Will you move like your minutes matter? Because they do. And every minute you betray them is one you don't get back. Every act of avoidance is a step away from the man you were supposed to become, and you will feel it in your gut, in your chest, in the heavy silence before sleep. When you ask, "What did I do with this day?" That question is the beginning of wisdom. Ask it. Every night, without mercy, without excuses. Ask it until the answer becomes a weapon. Until you can look yourself in the mirror and say, "I lived this day." Lived. Not perfectly, but deliberately. And I did not kneel. That's what it means to be alive. Not to coast. Not to collect moments, but to earn them. To meet the morning like a battlefield. To walk through the day with the stillness of a soldier. Who knows, he may not see another dawn. That's the Stoic path. Not flashy, not easy, but true. And it leads somewhere no shortcut can reach, to a life that matters. A mind that is sharp. A soul that is still. And when death comes, as it must, you will not panic. Because you will not have waited. You will have lived. Minute by minute. Choice by choice. Fully. Consciously. As a man who knew what time was, worth, and paid its price in sweat, in silence, in virtue, and that man dies free. There comes a point when words no longer serve, not because you have nothing to say, but because you have learned not everything deserves a voice. This is not weakness. This is strength refined. It is the mark of the man who no longer needs to be understood, because he understands himself. It is the stillness of the warrior who does not draw his sword at every insult. The calm of the builder who lays stone while others scream in the marketplace. It is the quiet of the Stoic, because silence is not emptiness, it is command. The modern world does not understand silence. It fears it. Fills every corner with noise, every pause with distraction, every moment of solitude with something artificial. Because if it stops even for a moment, it might hear the truth, that we have become slaves to reaction, to validation, to the impulse to say something even when nothing needs to be said. But you must become different. You must become the man who does not speak until speech is an act of service, who does not explain until clarity is required, who does not complain because he knows. Words are bricks, and every one of them builds or breaks something inside you. Your voice should be an extension of virtue, not a substitute for it. The Stoics didn't write to be admired. They wrote to remember, to anchor the mind to reason when storms rose and when storms come for you. What will you reach for? Noise? Outrage? 1,000 empty opinions? Or will you reach inward, into the calm center you've spent years cultivating? The man who reacts is ruled. The man who restrains is sovereign, because silence is not surrender, it is strategy. When others speak, you listen, not to agree, but to understand, to know who stands where, to know what moves hearts and what clouds minds. And when you speak, they feel it, not because of volume, but because it was earned. This is how you become undeniable, not through aggression, through presence, not through dominance, through alignment. Every man who ever led with wisdom spoke less than he knew. Every man who ever built something eternal acted more than he promised. And every man who burned with clarity did so because he kept his inner world sharp, still, and sovereign. You are not here to win arguments. You are here to build a soul that does not need defending. So let them speak. Let them boast. Let them break themselves on the rocks of their own noise. You hold the line. You let your stillness intimidate. You let your silence cut deeper than their screams. You listen without needing to reply. You endure without needing to be praised, because the man who does not react cannot be controlled. The man who does not flinch cannot be broken. And the man who walks in silence carries something louder than the world can hear. That is discipline. That is presence. That is power at its purest. So guard your words as you would guard a blade. Sharpen them, sheathe them. Use them only when no other action would do more good. And if you must speak, speak with precision. Speak with weight. Speak like a man who understands the price of noise, then return to silence. Not as retreat, but as home. Because that is where the fire grows. In the quiet, in the dark, where no applause reaches, and no doubt survives. That is where you become immovable. There is a kind of strength that does not need to raise its voice, that does not strike, that does not defend, because it does not feel threatened. It is the strength of a man who no longer fights for dominance, but for alignment. He does not seek victory in debate, in status and image. He seeks victory within, and for that, he does not need to announce himself. This man resists, but not with violence, not with rebellion, not with the desperate rage of the misunderstood. He resists with stillness, with clarity, with an unwillingness to betray himself no matter how loud the world becomes. Because resistance, when rooted in principle, needs no volume. It needs no followers. It needs no praise. It needs only one thing, a soul that cannot be bought. You may walk into rooms where your silence disturbs more than others shouting, where your refusal to join is more subversive than protest. You may live in a world that rewards agreement and punishes integrity, where comfort is sold as virtue, and cheap peace is exchanged for quiet obedience. But you do not belong to that. You do not kneel to what insults your conscience. You do not adapt to what distorts your core. Your resistance is not loud. It is structural. It is in how you show up, unmoved, untouched, unwilling to trade your soul for survival. Because to survive at the cost of yourself is not survival. It is decay. The Stoics knew this. They were surrounded by emperors, tyrants, cowards. They watched men sell out their own virtue for gold, for title, for a moment's ease. And they said no. They refused quietly. They endured loudly. They resisted not with riots but with reason, not with chaos but with conduct. Their rebellion was internal, a daily refusal to be moved by threats, to be softened by praise, to be shaped by anything less than truth. And that is your task now, not to impress, but to embody, not to speak more, but to stand truer. The modern world tells you that to resist is to shout, to demand, to burn down what you hate. But real resistance, Stoic resistance, is to build what you love even when no one helps. To keep your word in a time of betrayal. To keep your pace in a time of rush. To keep your silence in a time of noise. It is the quiet saying, I will not be moved. Not because I am stubborn, but because I have found what is worth standing for, and I will not move from it. You want to change the world? Begin with the structure of your own day. Begin with how you rise, with how you speak, with how you treat the ones who can do nothing for you. That is revolution. You want to dismantle falsehood? Live so honestly that every lie crumbles in your presence. Not because you expose it, but because you do not participate in it. Live like a blade sharpened in solitude. Live like a wall built from choices no one sees but you. Live like a mountain, so rooted, so clear that others don't argue with your presence, they adapt to it. That is the Stoic way. That is the strength they cannot categorize, cannot control, cannot seduce, because it does not come from status. It comes from self-rule. You resist by remembering who you are and refusing to forget, no matter how convenient amnesia becomes. You resist by choosing the harder yes, the quieter no, the invisible discipline that shapes character while the world sleeps. This is not glory. It is greatness. It is not fire. It is stone, and stone endures. So when they come, with offers, with pressure, with invitations to compromise, you smile, you nod, and you return to your path, unaffected, unbent, unshaken, because, the strongest act of resistance is to remain yourself in a world that wants you anything but. What do you do when no one is watching? That is the question that separates those who perform virtue from those who possess it. Not what you do when the lights are on, not when they're clapping, not when your name trends or your words are quoted, but when it's just you and the silence, when the camera's off, when the inbox is empty, when no one is counting your steps but you. What do you do then? Because that is who you really are. That's the truth the Stoics lived by. That virtue has no audience. That character is not a show. It is a code, written in silence, enforced in private. You see, there are men who look righteous, and then there are men who are. The first seek image, the second seek alignment, the first speak of discipline, the second live it. The first build impressions, the second build foundations, and you must decide, which man are you? The one who needs to be praised to keep going, or the one who builds in the dark because the work itself is the reward? The Stoic wakes before the world, not to be seen, but to see himself. He trains not for glory, but for readiness. He speaks not for attention, but from necessity, and he keeps his word even when no one is checking, especially then. Because if your integrity requires surveillance, It is not integrity. It is performance, and performance crumbles when the stage is removed. But principle survives everything, even shame, even obscurity, even loss. So the question becomes, can you act rightly with no witnesses, no applause, no feedback? Can you stay disciplined on the days where every voice inside says, it doesn't matter, because those days are the ones that matter most? The days where you rise anyway, where you speak truth anyway, where you stay sober, stay sharp, stay present, even when there's no reward waiting. That's the arena of real virtue, not the stage, the solitude. And what you do there echoes louder than anything you will ever post, publish, or proclaim. You want to be unbreakable? Then act right when it's invisible. Train when it's thankless. Serve when there's no spotlight. Do the hard thing not because it will be seen, but because it is right. That's the kind of power you cannot fake. It shapes you, slowly, deeply, until the man who once needed praise is gone, and what remains is principle in motion, clean action, without vanity, without delay, without excuse. That is what the Stoics called virtue, and it cannot be given, it cannot be taught. It can only be chosen over and over again in quiet, in resistance, in rejection of every seductive shortcut that whispers, no one will know, because you will. And if you betray yourself long enough, you stop trusting you. And when that happens, you become hollow. But if you keep your word when it costs you, you become full. You begin to trust yourself so deeply that the world loses its grip on you. You become immune to trends, to pressure, to judgment, because you don't need to be seen. You don't need to explain. You only need to be, and that is enough. So keep doing the right thing in the wrong world. Hold the line when no one else is left. Honor your code when no one is writing yours. And when the day comes that everything falls apart, you will still be whole. Not because you won, but because you were worthy, and that is the rarest strength of all. There is a force that moves beneath all things. Call it fate, call it nature, call it the will of the universe. It does not ask, it does not explain, it does not wait. It moves, uninterested in your plans, unconcerned with your dreams, unaware of your comfort. And yet, we rage against it. We expect life to adjust. We expect our path to be smooth simply because our intentions are good. But the truth is sharp. The universe owes you nothing. Not clarity, not fairness, not opportunity, not one more breath. Everything you are given is a gift, every pain a test, every storm an invitation, and you must decide. Will you resist what comes, or will you rise to meet it? Because resistance is not strength, not when it's aimed at the inevitable. It is weakness dressed in pride. The Stoics didn't fight fate. They aligned with it. They saw misfortune not as punishment, but as path. They saw hardship not as chaos, but as curriculum. Because when the world does not bend, you must bend yourself, not to break, but to adapt. This is the core of Stoicism. To love what happens, not because it's easy, not because it's pleasant, but because it is real, because it came to you. And therefore it belongs to you not to destroy, but to shape. You were not promised ease. You were given challenge, because challenge reveals character. What do you do when the loss comes? When the diagnosis lands? When the dream burns? When the one you love walks away? Do you scream at the sky? Or do you tighten your grip and keep building? Do you curse the gods? Or do you become the kind of man even gods would respect? You must remember, circumstances are not the measure of your power. response is, you cannot choose the storm, but you can choose the stance. You cannot choose the season, but you can choose the standard. And that choice is your freedom. Every time you choose to act in accordance with your values, regardless of what fate delivers, you win. Not in the eyes of the world, but in the soul. In the only court that will ever truly matter. This is not passivity. It is dominance over yourself. It is the highest form of control, sovereignty over your inner world. Let the external collapse. Let the fortune shift. Let the world forget you. You remain still, upright, aligned. That is what it means to be unshakable, not to control the world, but to move through it with clean steps regardless of terrain. It means when betrayal comes, you do not become bitter. When injustice comes, you do not become unjust. When despair whispers, you do not answer. You walk. One step, then another, head high, mouth closed, mind clear, because your power does not come from control. It comes from consent. You choose to accept reality on its terms and still live rightly within it. This is amor fati, the love of fate, the willing embrace of whatever life delivers. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because you trust that nothing comes to you without the opportunity to grow. So stop asking for ease. Ask for resilience. Stop asking for signs. Become the signal. Stop waiting for better days. Become better now, right here, in this moment, with this pain, with this uncertainty, with this exact version of you. That is where real transformation begins. Not when life gets better, but when you get wiser. So the next time life punches you, do not punch back. Stand still, absorb, learn, rise. Not because it hurt less, but because you have become more. This is what makes a man untouchable. Not armor on the outside, but alignment on the inside. He no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What is this here to teach me?" And then he listens, and then he acts, and then he keeps moving, because he does not fight fate. He fights for virtue, no matter what fate brings, and that is the highest freedom. What do you do every day? Not once in a while, not when you feel like it, not when someone's watching, every single day. That question is the blueprint of your soul, not what you believe, not what you say, not what you plan, what you do, repeated, relentless, uncelebrated. That is who you are. You can talk about values, you can write about virtue, you can post about discipline, but if it is not carved into your days, into the structure of your hours, then it is not real. Philosophy 2. The Stoic was not a theory. It was not something to quote. It was a practice, a ritual. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius sat with his journal and reminded himself, "Today you will meet selfish men, angry men, jealous men, and none of them can harm you unless you let them." That was not poetry. That was armor. Every morning, Epictetus reminded his students, "You may not control what happens, but you control how you meet it." That was not optimism. That was clarity. And every day they acted accordingly, not perfectly, but faithfully, because they understood. The man you become is simply the result of what you repeatedly do in silence. The Stoic doesn't need motivation. He doesn't need inspiration. He needs rhythm, structure, daily war against chaos, against laziness, against the voices that whisper, "Just skip it. Just this once, no one will know." But he will know. And so he fights. He wakes before the world. not because it feels good, but because it keeps him sovereign. He trains the body, not to impress, but to dominate the flesh that begs for softness. He disciplines the mind, not to be clever, but to stay sharp when life turns black. He speaks with precision, not because he loves words, but because he honors their weight. He listens more than he talks, because he would rather understand than be understood. And every act, no matter how small, is guided by one question: what kind of man am I building? Because this is the secret. Greatness is not a moment. It is a maintenance, a daily, deliberate maintenance of principle. Even when no one sees, especially when no one sees. You want to be strong? Start with your morning. Don't let the world in before you've built your wall. You want to be disciplined? Start with the next hour. Don't bargain with your own weakness. You want to be wise? Start with silence. Don't answer every thought that knocks. You want to build virtue? Start with action. Do something now that your future self will thank you for, not your present self. Because the present self wants ease, wants comfort, wants sugar, pleasure, sleep. But the future self, he's watching. And one day, he will sit alone in the silence of old age, or suffering, or success. And he will either nod or weep, not because of fate, but because of the rituals you chose. Rituals of avoidance or rituals of becoming. You think habits are small? They are not. They are your spine. They are your philosophy when no one's around. They are the quiet statements you make to the universe. This is who I am. And if you skip them, cheat them, postpone them, you are not cheating the world. You are cheating your own becoming. So wake up, not just from sleep, from the illusion that transformation comes in waves. It does not. It comes in drips, in steps, in breaths, over years, over 1,000 unnoticed acts of personal integrity. And the ones who rise, the ones who die without shame, they are not the ones who were brilliant. They are the ones who built their days like monks build temples. With eye, focus, with reverence, with the knowledge that every small brick becomes a fortress. So ask yourself now, what is your ritual? Not what do you hope for, not what do you wish to become. What are you doing in real time to earn that vision? And if the answer is nothing, good, because now you know, and now you begin. Not next week, not tomorrow, now. One push-up, one breath, one page, one silent act of defiance against the decay you were starting to accept. That is the beginning of something real. That is the seed of a Stoic life, not in talk, not in titles, but in rituals. In the fire you carry when no one sees. There comes a moment when the noise stops, the crowd fades, the lights dim, the room empties, and you are alone with one question echoing in the silence. Did you live as you should have lived? Not, did you win? Not, did they love you? Not, were you successful? Were you true? This question waits for every man. It waits with the patience of time and the certainty of death. And when it arrives, all your stories, all your justifications, all your bravado collapse. You cannot talk your way past it. You cannot lie to the soul. You either lived rightly or you didn't. You either carried the fire or you fed the smoke. You either stood in silence when it counted, or you filled the air with noise. This is the final reckoning, and if you have lived as the Stoics taught, if you have walked with discipline, acted with justice, endured with courage and thought with clarity, then you will not fear it. You will not plead for one more day. You will not curse what is ending. You will close your eyes like a soldier returns from war, quiet, scarred, but at peace. Because what else is there? All the gold is gone. All the praise is gone. All the illusion is gone. Only the core remains. And if the core was built of stone, it stays. You came into this world with nothing but breath and potential. And now you return with nothing but the echo of who you chose to be. Let that echo be enough. Let it say, I did not kneel. I did not betray myself. I did not waste my fire. Let it say, I lived. Not easily, not safely, but rightly. Because in the end, you are not judged by outcomes. You are remembered by alignment. Did you stay close to what you knew was right, even when it hurt, even when it cost you, even when it made you alone? Did you fight only when necessary, and with restraint? Did you speak only what needed to be said and nothing more? Did you build your days as if they were sacred? Because they were. Each one was a page, each act was ink. And now, the book is closing. And what remains is not what you claimed, but what you practiced. Not what you wanted, but what you were willing to do daily without witness, without comfort, without applause. That is legacy, not the kind they remember. The kind you remember as you face the stillness at the end. And what is stillness really? It is not nothing. It is not death. It is completion. It is the silence earned by a life without waste. It is the reward for years of self-mastery. No more striving, no more explaining, no more reaction, just breath. Then no breath, and you at rest. Not because you escaped, but because you finished, and that is everything. So as you close your eyes, remember this. You did not live for the world. You lived for what was eternal. And you did not bend, and you did not break, and you did not betray the fire within. You were not perfect, but you were present. And that made all the difference, and now there is nothing left to say, nothing left to do, only silence, only fire, only truth.